Alright guys, here's a video to help you understand the PowerPoint review I created for you. And this, I'm going to try to go as far as I can here before the bell rings. I have about 25 minutes. So let's see how many questions we can go through. I will do a few, skip a few, to make sure you understand most of the concepts here. And if I can't finish all of them in the next 25 minutes, then please continue on your own, okay? And then you can print it and show it to me and ask questions right before. We'll have a little review right before the test. All right, so let's get started here. One of the very first questions on the test asks you to simplify expressions. It's just asking you to simplify, combine. And when you see simplify, you combine like terms is one of the things we use here to simplify. Another thing we use is the distributive property. In this case, I don't see any distributive property. We don't need to do the little, there's a number times something parentheses and then we distribute it. There's not this case here, so I'm going to use just combine like terms. I see a 2x and I see a negative 7x. So they both have an x in common. They are alike terms. And 2 minus a 7 is a negative 5x. So I took care of the x's. Now let's take care of the y values. We have negative 3y and we have positive 8y. So negative 3 plus an 8 is a positive 5y. So that is how you combine terms like that. Or you can also have combined the y terms first. So the same answer in just different order would be the 5y first and then the x's second. They are both the same answer. They're just put in different order. Okay, but notice that my 5x, it is still a negative 5x, and my 5y's is still a positive 5y. Okay? All right, now let's take a look over here. We have a bunch of letters that looks exactly the same, but they have different exponents. The m is cubed, the p is not. Let me find another term where oh, here we go. The m is cubed and the p is not. So this guys right here, m cubed p and m cubed p, they are related. So those are the two that I'm going to combine. So 5 plus 2 is 7 of the mp cubed. And then I look at it and it says, oh, this is the mp cubed. There is no other terms like the mp cubed, the mp cubed, so I only have a negative 3 mp cubed. So I just combined the two that were the same. They are the same because they have the m cubed p. So they are the same term. Okay, so I combined their constants. 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay, and that is the answer. All right, then here, again, we look at it and say, oh, I see the parentheses, so that must be my distributive property. It's not combined like terms yet. I need to use the distributive property first. So 2 times y is 2y. And 2 times negative 5, a positive times a negative, is negative. 2 times 5 is 10, and that equals a negative 6. But over here is asking us to solve the equation. So I really want to know y equals what. That is really what I'm looking for. Okay? It's not just to simplify. The first two was simplify, but this next one is saying solve for y. Solve the equation. So in order to get the y all by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of negative 10, which is a positive 10 on both sides of the equation. If you add it to the left, you better add it to the right as well. So a 2y and a negative 10 with a positive 10 is 0. So I'm not going to write plus 0 here. Equals, and a negative 6 plus a 10, I have negative 6 plus a 10, that is a 4. Okay? And then the next thing is I want the y by itself. A lot of the students think that they have to subtract a 2. That is incorrect. It's saying 2 times the y. Okay? 2 times the y equals 4. So we divide it by 2, and we divide it by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 times y is just the y. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay? So here's the answer. So notice that we use the distributive property first, distributive property first, and then we end up with a little equation right here, and then we solved it by first isolating by adding the 10 and then dividing by 2. Okay? All right. Next question on your review packet here. Next slide, it says solve the equation. So I look at it and the only variable I have is x. So I want to know what x is. All right? So there's going to be probably some combining like terms. Remember the skills we know in class here. The skills that we've always, that we've been teaching this whole unit. The skills are, we first learn to combine like terms. That's the first skill that we learn. Oops, I'm out of paper right there. We first combine like terms. And then we learn the distributive property. Distributive property. Okay, that's another thing we learned. And then we learned to solve equations. So all these skills is going to be used here in this test. That's what we taught you in Unit 1. That's what we're going to be testing you. So I always look for, can I combine like terms? Well, I have an 8x and a negative 9x. So let me combine these two. 8 minus 9 is negative 1x. So there you go. I left my 1 invisible. Some people write it. It doesn't bother me if you write it. Negative 1x, but I still have my 4 on this side of the equation. So here's my left side. I'm going to keep it separated. Here's my left side. On my right side, I have a 9 and a negative 5 that could be combined. So 9 and a negative 5, I'm going to repeat my negative 2x, but 9 minus 5 is just a positive 4. Okay? Then I'm going to try to move the variables to one side and the non-variables, just regular numbers, to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 2x, but if I add it to the right, I better add it to the left, plus 2x. Okay? So negative 2x with a positive 2x, it becomes 0. And on this side, we only have a 4. On this side, we only have a 4. Over here, we have a negative 1x, but a positive 2x. So he ends up with just a 1x plus 4. And then all we have to do is subtract 4 from both sides. And we get that x equals 4 minus 4 is 0. It's okay, that's a solution. A lot of people think, oh, that's a no solution. No, 0 is a number, and that is a solution. Okay? So if you see my steps here, we combine like terms first, and then we start moving items that were variables to one side by doing the opposite operation. And then what was non-variables, just regular numbers, we move it to the other side by doing the opposite operation. Okay, you're also going to be asked to convert things. And here's asking to convert 4.3 miles per minute. So remember, this little bar over here is representing the division bar or the fraction bar. They want us to go from 4.3 miles per minute to something of meters per second. So we just have to find what value that is. That's what we're looking for. So remember my little technique I taught you in class. Make the little long table. Okay? You start with 4.3 miles per minute over here. So I want something about, let me get a different color here. I want something about miles down here. Miles. I want the miles to cancel. And then I look at my little information sheet that you will be able to use it on your test right here. I'm going to pull it up here. And I look up here and I say something about miles, and 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. That's the information we have here about miles. Let me see if I can find something else. Okay, 1 kilometer is 0.62 miles. That's another information. Let's remember what we're trying to get here. We're trying to get to meters. Let's see if I can find anything about meters. We have 1 mile is 5,280 feet. You could possibly use that. And 1 mile is also 1,760 yards. And then over here we have meters is it's something about centimeters. So why don't we use something about meters, centimeters, and something about centimeters and kilometers. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to go with 1 mile is, let's see, 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. Let's see what happens here. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. I'm going to put km for kilometers. Okay, so the miles will cancel. Miles are done. But I really don't want kilometers. I want meters. So let me also find something to cancel my kilometers. So let's look for something about kilometers up here. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. If you see it up here, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So there we go, it worked. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Okay? So you just have to play with these values until you get to isolate. All right? So the kilometers will cancel, and the only unit we have left is meters, and that's exactly what we wanted. But now I need to get rid of minutes. We need to get down to seconds. We need to convert it all the way down to seconds. 1 minute is the same as 60 seconds. And there you go. Okay, in one shot, I was able, using one conversion factor, I was able to already get rid of the minutes. So 1 minute is 60 seconds. All right. Now the last thing to do is just multiply all the top values, the numerator values, and then divide by the denominator. So in the numerator, I have 4.3 times 1.6 times 1,000. There we go. And that only unit that survives on the top is meters. On the bottom, we have nothing here, 1 times 1, which is just 1, and we have 60 seconds. 60 seconds. So if you use your calculator, that you'll also be allowed to use on the test, all you have to do is multiply 4.3 times 1.6 times 1,000. And you get the answer, I'm going to put it down here, is 6,880 meters divided by 60 seconds. You've got to finish this. You've got to finish all the way and finish the division. 6,880 meters divide by 60 seconds. We get 114.67 meters per second. Okay? So there we go. And on the test, we'll let you know if we want you to round it to the nearest meter or the nearest tenth. We'll let you know. If they tell you to round it to the nearest meter, we would have 115 meters per second, and that would be our final answer if we told you to round it to the nearest meter, okay, whole meter. So all we need to do here is be able to play with this conversion values over here until we can get down to meters or whatever the unit is asking. All right? Okay, next set of question is just simplifying it again. Simplify, simplify, and simplify. I'm only going to do one, and I'm going to pick the middle one here. Negative times negative, it's positive. You've got to imagine that there's a 1 in here. Negative 1 times a negative v, it would be a positive v. Negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2. So you would have, we don't have to show a positive v, we just can show v plus 2. It's 2 positive, but it gets to be invisible positive. So there we go. Okay? So practice that negative times negative. Remember, another nice little note here that I gave it to you at the very, very beginning. A negative times a negative is positive. A positive times a positive is also positive. The only difference is when you get a negative times a positive, that's when you get a negative. Okay? So when they're the same and they're multiplying, you get positive. So negative times negative is positive. Negative times negative is positive. Okay? So remember this little rule right here of multiplication. This is for multiplication, not for addition. So I'm pretty sure you can use your same little skills here to solve these other two simplifications. Okay, simplify expressions. Then I want to work on proportion. When we don't tell you what method to use, you can use any method you want. So over here, I'm going to use the multiplication property of equality. The multiplication property of equality. Okay? I'm just going to use the multiplication property of equality. Next one, I will use the cross product. Okay, I see the two denominators, 10 and p. I want to get rid of both. So I'm going to multiply here by 10 and also by p. And on this side, I got to do the same thing by p and by 10. Equations, whatever you do to the left, you must do to the right. Okay? So if I multiply by 10p, I multiply over here by 10p as well. On this side, the 10s cancel. So I don't need to multiply by 10 and then divide it by 10. So on the right side, the only leftover is negative 2 times p. So we get negative 2p. On the left side, the p's will cancel. And the leftovers are multiplied. 18 times 10. So we get 180. I need to isolate. Solving the proportion means I need to find out what is the value of p. So I have to finish the value of p. I have to divide by a negative 2 because I have a negative 2 times p. So I'm going to divide by a negative 2, divide by a negative 2. And that way I will finish right here. P is all by itself now because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a 1p. And 180 divided by negative 2 is negative 90. So p equals a negative 90. If you want to know that you are right, all you have to do is come and put it over here. If you go ahead and check it, if you check your work and you get 18 divided by a negative 90, does that really equal a negative 2 over a 10? So all you have to do is simplify this fraction and you get that this can be divided by, the 18 can be divided by a 9 and you do get a 2, and this 90 divided by a 9 you do get a 10, and they are both negative expressions, so you are correct. Okay? So always check to see if your answers are correct. Alright, so that is the solving proportion there. Our next one I'm going to solve by using the cross product. Okay? The cross product tells me all I have to do is literally cross over the equal sign, performing a multiplication. That's why it's called cross, and product means multiplication. So I'm going to cross over here, and I'm going to get 3 times my x plus 7. And I still have my equal sign. And then I'm going to cross diagonally 8 times x minus 2. So 8 times my x minus 2. And then this becomes a distributive property case. So I need to use my distributive property before I can go any further. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 7 is positive 21, because positive times positive, it's positive. And then 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. So now I just need to move things around. Remember, we always want to put variables on one side, and then we want to put the non-variables in the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides. So 3x minus 3x is 0. We get 21 by itself. 8 minus 3 is 5x minus 16. The last thing I need to do is add my 16 to both sides. Because I have a negative 16, I'm going to add a 16. Okay? So this becomes 0, and we get our 5x all by itself. We're almost there. And then 21 plus 16 is 37. So let's move all the way up here and continue. I have 37 equals 5x. I want to get x all by itself, and this is saying 5 times x, so we divide it by 5. Divided by 5 on both sides, we get the fraction 37 over 5 equals x, 37 is not divisible by 5. We don't want to turn this into a decimal. We cannot reduce it by any number. So we are done. It is also, it's not a really pretty number, but it is a number. And we accept all numbers here. Okay, we don't discriminate. We will accept a negative 90. We'll accept a 37 over 5. The thing to remember is reduce the fraction if you can. And that is not reducible. It's already in the lowest term. So we're done. Okay, it looks like the bell's going to ring in about a second here. And I'm going to go until the bell rings, okay? So the next thing here is solve the inequality. It's just like solving an equation, okay? And then we want to graph the solution on a number line. So if I'm saying 5 times this quantity, a lot of you say, oh, I just want to distribute. There's nothing wrong with distributing. You can. But I also can get rid of this multiplication by dividing both sides by 5. So 5 divided by 5 reduces, and we end up getting W minus 3 is greater than 35 divided by 5 is 7. So it becomes a much, much easier inequality to solve. And now all we need to do is add the 3 to both sides, and we get, continue down here, that W is greater than 10. So on a number line, I would show by putting the number line with the 0. I would place the 10 somewhere here. Because I don't have an equal under, I would put an open circle and show that I want all the W's greater than 10. Okay? And that would look like something like this. Okay? Now, if you wanted to distribute it, you would still get the same answer. If there's nothing wrong with distributing. You could have distributed and got 5W minus 15, and then you would solve it. You would still get exactly the same answer. Okay? I just chose it to do it in a different way. So over here, if I wanted to distribute this, I would get negative 2W plus 14 is less than 26. And I could still solve it and get exactly, like, it still get the correct answer. So just remember one thing. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality. Okay, just remember that. If you ever multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality. So there you go. I'm going to stop here, and you can finish solving this equation, and sorry, this inequality. Continue working on your review packet. There's a lot of good things here. In order to solve this, you must have the same denominator. You cannot add fractions without the same denominator. Okay, so you must figure out how to get a same denominator here. And here's another solving inequality. So please print it if you want to ask me for help and continue solving this. I made sure to create this very, very similar to what you will be seeing on the test. Please study. Let me know if you have any questions. Come and ask me for help. Good luck on your test. See you soon.